Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapapaunamu te moana. Hei huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai. Tātou ia tātou katoa, hui e, tā iki e.
Kia ora. Okay, I have apologies for our absence from Councillor Kewen and lateness from Councillors Coker, Daniels and Johansson. Someone want to move them? Councillor Scandrett, second by Councillor Chen. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. We should be. How early? It's one item. There's one item. Okay. So there's no public forums, deputations, petitions. So we'll move into the only item of the report, which is item 7, the Transport bi-monthly report. Richard, we're not mucking around. Oh, do we have minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to move them, Pauline? I was just seeing if you were away. Do I have a seconder for the minutes? Sam? Alan? Any just errors? All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Richard?
Thank you, Mr Chair, Committee. If I could take the report as read and perhaps provide you with a couple of updates since it was signed off, if that's okay. So just in terms of Rickham Road upgrade, you would have seen that staff and the contractor have announced that the disruptive works will be completed by Easter. There's still line marking, green servicing and planting. That's mainly the trees to be completed after that, and the planting of the trees will be delayed until the planting season to ensure that we minimise the stress and they have the best chance of survival, what will be a busy environment. In terms of the major cycleways, South Express is all approved by NZTA, and we're in detailed design work and heading towards tender in the next few months. Norwest Arc has been approved and we are waiting for the formal advertisement. This is designed and ready to tender soon, and we're also expecting approval of Heathcote 2 in this month. In terms of safety works, Dyes Pass and Evans Pass, we're working with NZTA to fast track this work as much as possible. So I just had a quick lift conversation on that, and it's all go. So that's a positive thing for us, particularly in terms of the funding assistance rate that we're going to receive on it. You'll be pleased to know, you probably do already know, that CCC was the national winner in the 2,000 plus staff category for the Aotearoa Bike Challenge, so that's great. And you would have seen something in the report about last year. I think we did gave away the prizes here, and there's quite a number of the organisations who participated in that event attended, and it seemed to run pretty well. So if that's okay with the committee, we'd be happy to do that again. Yep. The Ministry of Transport is expecting to release the draft government policy statement on land transport in the middle of this month, so middle of March, and this will provide the direction and focus for the National Land Transport Programme. So as you'll probably recall, the last one was done in 2018, I think, towards the end. And that was supposed to be an interim document. They were going to release a new one shortly after that. They held off, and there'll be one full release this month, so Council will undoubtedly be a submitter on that. NZTA have released accessible streets, so that's been out for the last couple of days. And that's really aimed at improving the regulatory safety for people walking, cycling and using other forms of transport, particularly around footpaths, cyclists, buses. So I think the main change is really looking to legalise a lot of the things that people already do, but which perhaps aren't legal, such as cycling on the footpaths, which they're looking to permit as long as it's less than 15 k's an hour, and you're not biking or using other things like e-scooters in an inappropriate manner. There's other language in there around that, but that's what it's seeking to address, those sorts of things. So that'll be helpful for us as an organisation. It'll also seek to enable use of those sorts of devices in cycle lanes as well. So that's something that can help us as an organisation in terms of providing direction. In terms of PT, this came out shortly after the report was written, but unfortunately patronage for the current financial year is down 3.5%. So when compared with the last financial year, so not good news on the public transport front. But just on that, the metro line routes and the city connectors continue to carry the majority of passengers. So it's those main lines such as blue, orange, purple, yellow, and the orbiter, which is the route which orbits the city, which actually carry the majority of passengers. There is an update in the report as well about the PT Futures business cases and how those are progressing. So that's just an update on the things which have happened since the report was signed off. Happy to take questions on any of those or anything in the report itself.
Thank you. Sarah.
Thank you. A couple of quick things. Page 18 of the agenda, it says wings to wheels, route selection completed. I thought that hadn't been done.
Yes, so I checked.
We discussed that last week quite in depth.
So I checked up on that, and my understanding is we need to do the preliminary design, and then once that's complete, we bring that back, and it's not a formal approval as I understand it, but there's direction from Community Board and Council about the route selection itself. So
briefings
it's not approved per se, but we need to come back with the preliminary scheme design on it.
It would just be really helpful if you just add the next stage, next to come to, and those ones would be really useful.
Given it sits out towards the end of the LTP still.
No, just that route selection is completed. Sounds like council signed it off.
Yes.
That's all. Yeah, and so it would be like next stage, approval from council for the design or something like that. Yeah. And then the new stuff that's just come out, accessible streets, the footpath stuff. Is there a risk with cycling on the footpaths that it then lowers the incentives for council to actually provide separate facilities?
Look, I think the accessible streets has only been released for a couple of days. I've just browsed it. I think there's always risks with those sorts of things, and they've made a whole lot of suggestions, but they are clearly sitting on the streets on a couple, sitting on the on the fence on a couple of things, and they're really seeking advice from it. So yes, I think that is a risk. It's my understanding, given the turnaround time that we'll need to get the report on the agenda, that's actually going to come to a 3 Waters meeting or something like that, because that's just the...
For our submission.
Yeah, for our submission. So it'll be a committee of the whole. It'll be a kind of an out-of-committee type submission that will look to get approved, but that's the committee that falls closest, or actually on the day that the submission's closed.
Yeah, I think there'll be probably a number of councillors that I want to help work on that submission before it comes to the committee for sign-off.
Yeah, to make sure we... Yeah. Can I just do just 2 quick more things? The cycle lanes thing with legalising scooters and cycle lanes, which is really good. But even apart from that direction, we still need council to sign off on making it legal for the scooters to use our separated cycle paths, because they're separate, yeah? Or can that go into the national legislation to make sure that's separate cycle thing, so that we don't have to do it?
Yeah, so I don't know if that's going to override what we've done in terms of our approvals, because you're right, our ones,
cycles only.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer to that yet, whether it will supersede the decisions this council's made. So that.
And if it doesn't, are we working on that to change ours?
Well, I think we need to see. Let's review the accessible streets and see what it does, and then we can come back to you with a direction on that.
And the last thing is those photos are just amazing. Thank you very much. The Oxford Terrace.
Oh, the parking, right.
The 3 different things in the parking. Really, really clear illustration of best use of space for people, and it's really good for business and stuff like that as well, that you're using the space. So, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Chen.
Thank you. Quickly, 3 questions. First one on page 18, the South Express, the construction plan to late of this financial year, but what is the completion date? Will be completed?
So I don't know if we have that yet, but all I can say is that we're it's been approved for funding by NZTA,
Yes.
and the detailed design has been completed now, and
Yes.
then we'll be working to tendering that
Yes.
and getting it delivered. So I don't have a date for you on that at the moment, but
Yes.
but it's all go from our perspective in terms of finishing the detailed design
Yes.
and getting it tendered, and then we'll come back to you with a date or dates in terms of delivery, start dates and delivery dates. It's too early for us to say just at the moment, though, Councillor.
Okay, thank you. Second question is on page 20, the way funding. Particularly, you emphasize there were some new variable message in the science. I remember last time the committee meeting or council meeting, I couldn't remember. I request staff consider whether those way funding, not only for the local people, also for the international visitors. So whether have a different language, particularly this digital one, probably it's easier for the different language. I just want to know whether you already consider or not yet this one.
So they've
For
been
new variable, yes.
put in. At the moment, they are focused on car parking. So it's really talking about the car parking numbers available in the car parking buildings.
Yes.
But we will look to introduce other messaging to them,
Yes.
but we haven't done that at the moment, and I'll take on board the suggestion about different languages. So can I come back to you on that?
Okay, yeah. Also, you particularly mentioned have a culture and heritage way funding. Probably the visitor have a particular interest in,
Yes.
to know
Yep.
where about those the facility and the building. Last one. Major project, I never seen any regarding to the stage 2 or Southern Motorway, the update status, and also regarding to update status, Horseway Junction Road extension. And they probably this is a very key project, but no any report in here. So whether you can update it to us.
So in terms of the Christchurch Southern Motorway 2, it's an NZTA project, so we haven't reported on that extensively through this forum, but it's my understanding that it's anticipated it will be delivered by the middle of this year still, and if you go anywhere near it, you'll see that it's not far from completion now. However, there is still a lot of work to do, and the risk with these things is that you may kick into the next construction season because you run out of time to do all the work before kind of winter hits and it gets hard to do everything. But it's my understanding it's on track to be delivered by the middle of the year. I'd have to come back to you about the intersection in terms of where that's at as well.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
okay,
because
Councillor.
why I ask this question? Because those one, if it can be the complete as soon as possible, then along the Timberton, particular Jones Road, Railway, Waterloo, as well as to the Horseway Junction up to the Hornby, that area, there's a big impact, heavy motor vehicle and the trucks pass through, And also the staff always mention, if this one open, they will reduce 30%. So we
Look,
need to review those situations.
It was one of those. It was one of those projects that we had for delivery over the next couple of years in the LTP, but NZTA indicated they weren't going to fund it, so the decision of council was made to push it out a little bit because we didn't want to fund the full 100% ourselves. We are still doing the design work on it, but there's certainly no certainty around NZTA funding at this stage. So it's still a few years away to the best of my understanding, but we are doing some of the work on it, and we still continue to discuss the matter with NZTA.
Andrew?
Thank you. Referring to paragraph 5.1, maintenance, and of course this is an area that we know is significantly important to communities, actually getting the maintenance done to community expectation in an organised way. I want to refer to the first bullet point, and then I've got a question on the last bullet point as well. So the alignment, or maybe more accurately lack of alignment, between Hybris and RAM, this is a result of a failure in the B2B link and historic processes. I guess what I'm asking is, what does that mean? What does it mean in practical terms, and how are we going to getting it fixed?
So we haven't traditionally, perhaps if I could back up a little bit, we haven't traditionally covered off maintenance a lot in terms of this report, and we thought it was an appropriate time for us to give you an overview of the work that we do in that space. So hence the reason for the considerable additional detail.
Yep.
Mark Pinner is the maintenance manager to my left, and hence the reason I've brought him up to the table. So in broad terms, while Hybris was introduced 14, 15 months ago now, there's still a lot of work to do to integrate that with other systems. And sometimes the B2B or the link between those systems falls down. And if you look at the next page, or doesn't work, when you see the number of customer service requests or tickets that we get a year, which is significant, 35,000, Mark's team deals with 20,000 of those per year. If the link is down for a short period of time, then, and the systems are not talking to each other, then we have a problem between them. And we might close off a job in RAM, which is how we manage our roading asset, but that doesn't link through to Hybris. So we get numbers which come through to us which show that some jobs haven't been done when in reality they have been done. So it's an IT fix is needed in there. We are working with the IT team, but that's something they need to program in there. So some of the numbers which we see may show that a job hasn't been done when in fact it has been done.
So it only affects the reporting, it doesn't affect the doing of the work?
It doesn't, no, not at the moment. I think Rich has explained it very well. Basically, at times, jobs don't either come to us to do, or when they do come to us to do, they don't close out. So we know in our system how many we've got. We can compare that to basically what is in the hybrid system. And we do know at the moment there's around about 400 difference. And when we look at that difference, we can see the date, and it is very clear that a lot of those, probably 200 to 250, are literally in the first week that it happens. The Hybris went live. So it's probably no surprise when it started that some things weren't quite working as we expected. We've got IT to work through those so they can close them out. And once they close them out, the numbers will look far better. But part of the other conversation is an ongoing one about correcting the service levels so that actually reflect what we can or can't do. So,
all right.
So there's some discussion in the bullet points underneath that around, we need to continue to prioritise jobs on a daily basis. And there's some jobs which people might want us to fix which we simply either don't get round to because there's new and more important priorities, or we don't have the money to do. And we've shown that in the OPEX figures as well. So that's just an issue that we want to bring to the council's attention. The significant number of customer service requests that we get per year, the IT challenge that we have in connecting up the various systems, and it's not just Hybris and RAM, it is also SAP as well. So you almost need three systems which are talking to each other, which makes it complicated. And it is a process that we need to go to prioritise them on a very regular basis, and sometimes there are things that we may not get round to or may not be able to afford to do.
So when are we expecting this problem to be resolved? If we're 15, 16 months in and we haven't yet got a solution, have we got a time frame when we can expect one?
Well, Mark's on a team which includes IT.
It may be that we need an update from somebody other than yourselves.
I would suggest that the issue isn't solely transport. It is across the whole of council, and there is a working party now to resolve those issues. And the Hybris team and the call centre team are working closely with IT to get their resource to focus on it. So just today, just an hour ago, I had a meeting with them, and they're focusing on what is essentially a BAU activity before obviously an enhancement activity. So some things should have just been and should be ready now. So we just want to focus on those and hopefully get those sorted in the next couple of months.
Right, okay. And then very quickly, final question. Similar outcome, but obviously around human intervention rather than a systems problem, I'm guessing. Unknown accounts for 61% of all road asset requests, not providing the detail down to road, footpath, curb and channel, or ensuring accuracy, the urgency of the task is clearly understood. Presumably this is about the intervention of the call centre operator, so the person taking the phone call, and how it's logged in the system. I'm hoping that you can tell me that this has now been resolved as a matter of training in the call centre.
Yep, so that was as simple, hopefully, as removing the ability to use that category. So they actually have to use a defined asset in terms of it is on the road or footpath or curb and channel. That obviously needs to have training, but we do also want to make sure that it is a mandatory requirement that the call centre staff go to that extent each and every time, because as well as getting it to the right asset and hence to the right team that can deal with it, more essentially want to make sure it's got the right priority to deal with it at the right time as well.
Yeah, because otherwise it would cause a delay, presumably. So this report comes bi-monthly, so I'm guessing that you'll expect to report maybe what you've just told us, or a figure that shows significant improvement in this report next time?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Jake?
Just on the PT Futures business cases, when did work on those 3 cases start? Did they start at the same time? And when did work on each of them begin?
So work started, we let the contract at the end of 2019. Work started mid-January, and it was actually for the first 2 business cases, so the foundations and rested network were let, and the reason why we broke them up was because we received some feedback from the consulting sector who, because we put this out at a time which overlapped with the Let's Get Welly moving business cases, which are significantly larger than ours in terms of the cost associated with them, that they wanted the business cases separated. So we did that because we wanted to make sure we had the best team bidding. And we are negotiating with WSP, which is previously Opus, who are the organisation who are leading the foundations and rested network, for them to potentially do the mass rapid transit. But if those negotiations aren't successful, we would go to the market again, but that would take significantly more time. So at the moment we're underway on the first 2 and not yet underway on mass rapid transit.
Yanni?
Thank you, and thank you for the detailed report. It's quite a lot in it. I just wanted to start with the PT infrastructure. I don't know if you need me to page 27. I was just wondering if we can get some information about what's happening with our real-time information system, because I'm really unclear about the money that we're spending on it, the technology that's being used, and how fit for purpose it still is.
Yeah, look, it's creaking, I think would be a fair assumption. I think it was put in quite some time ago now, and we did some work with ECAN and put something out to the market towards the end of last year. However, given the PT Futures business cases that were out, that was put on hold for a short period of time because that's one of the key issues you'd expect a business case to address, because real-time information is fundamental to the success of public transport. However, we've recently been in discussions with Environment Canterbury about potentially awarding that contract, and that's something we're still in negotiations with them about. So I can't get into the details about it, but I agree that the system we have in place at the moment, while it's still working, it's old and is in need of replacement. And we have done some work on that, but whether it forms part of the business case or as a separate process, we're still in discussions with ECAN about.
So I just don't understand what governance oversight we have of it, because I see that they've changed the technology even within the last 12 months. There's been new technology installed at some of the bus stops. And when we get bus stops coming to our board, we can't get an answer whether real-time information is going in or not. I think we've been told it's been put on hold because there's work going on. So I'm just trying to understand at a governance level in terms of that budget, when do we get to see what the choices are and what the value is for the money that we're spending?
So Environment Canterbury are leading the tendering process for that, but look, I'd need to come back to you on, I don't have all the details on it. Okay. So
I think that would be helpful.
I can provide you with a little bit of an update on where that's at.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to check on the maintenance and the footpaths. It's just on page 24 at the top,
Yep.
you've basically said the current volume, you talk about the current volume of OPEX, and then under that you talk about the value of work added requested is increasing quicker than it can be funded and delivered. And I was just wondering if you can just help us understand a little bit more, because you've obviously got the first figure, which it says there's 3.068 remaining,
Oh, yeah.
and you've got total funding of 9.6, but you've got a do list of 4.5 million. So I was just kind of trying to understand how we're going to address that issue, but also if you can just kind of clarify why that figure is got more work than can be funded, but we've still got a balance remaining.
So we've still got work to do this financial year, but we've got more jobs than we've got funding for.
Yeah, that's it. And don't forget that obviously it's a moving feast that every month, every day, we're getting new jobs coming in. And the rate at which those new jobs coming in before and how much we complete is always greater.
So that speaks to the issue that I mentioned earlier on when I was speaking to Councillor Turner's question, is that we've got more jobs than we've got money for.
But at the moment, you've got $9 million, 9.6 on budget.
Yep.
You've got 3 million of that remaining, and what you're saying is you've got a current work list of 5.4, which is going to exceed the 3 million.
Yep.
Yeah, and we'll probably be finding another million and a half each month.
Right. And how much of that's related to the skirt repairs having to be looked at? Like, what have we got any sort of understanding of why, when we've had so much money spent on our infrastructure, that we're getting into a situation where we're having to spend more than what we're planning for?
Look, I couldn't answer that. I wasn't too close to the skirt program, but I think when you look at it, you don't need to look at our transport asset and see that a lot of the work the skirt did was bringing it back to a very basic level of service, and a lot of the money went underneath the ground, not on the transport asset itself.
Skirt did, by their own indications of volume, they did 4.12 million square metres of chip seal. When you break that down, that's around about, I think it was 130k of road being done over 5 years. So that's 26 kilometres a year. We should be doing about 130k a year. So even when they were at full swing, there's about 100k deficit.
Okay.
So that's just what they did do, and then what they have left of all the work underground is left trenches, which is what we're now managing as they are indeed opening up.
Right. Just two final questions. One is in regards to the street LED upgrade. Is the memo that you sent us, has that been given to the people that made the deputation, so they're aware of, the information and this report?
I don't know. I reviewed the memo, but I don't know if it went out to them. I know it went to Mayor and councillors, but I don't know if it went to those people.
Okay, so if we wanted to make a decision to go to 3,000 LED, which Dunedin City Council has done, and then go to 2,200 in the sensitive ecological areas of the city, what would be the process for us making a decision in that regard?
I'd have to come back to you on that, councillor. So I can come back to you on whether the memo went out to those people who made the deputation, and I can come back to you on that. But the LED program is well underway.
Yeah, that's what concerns me when I read the report, is the ability for us to actually go, we think we've got the wrong one, and we'd like to go what Dunedin have done with the lower level. We don't seem to be able to make that decision. Because we seem so far down it, so I'm just trying to understand.
We are definitely well advanced in terms of our LED program, and there's significant benefits to us doing that, which we've outlined in the report. And there's a time frame cut-off in terms of the funding from NZTA. So, I'd be pretty careful about changing it, because one, there could be significant financial implications for council, because we'd have to move to something else.
Maybe
and we might be outside the cut-off period. But why don't I review the memo?
Right.
And one, see that it went to the people who made the deputations, or if it can be sent out. And two, I'll check with Jeff English, who wrote it and is managing that.
I don't know how other councils feel, but I would have thought around sites of ecological significance, like, rivers and possibly places on the peninsula, we should be looking to do what Dunedin have done. Because I think people are genuinely concerned about the impact of the bright lights on the ecology, and I think, there's information we've previously had as council. So I personally would like us to look at what Dunedin's done, accepting that we probably can't do the main urban area at the lower level, but maybe we can have a more targeted approach. So just raise that with the chair. The final question is just on the cycleways. Just on the, sorry, just bring the page, the Heathcote Expressway, just page 18. You don't make any mention of the concrete issue, and we've just got a start work notice yesterday for more work happening on that cycleway. Are you able to kind of tell us what's going on there?
So this is to do with the, so that commentary in there, as I mentioned, we're expecting approval for Heathcote Stage 2 later on the month.
So
But
this
are
is
you
just
talking
stage
about
one. So this is the issue of stage 1 and the
the
strength of the
concrete
concrete.
replacement? Yep, so that the memo or the discussions we had previously with you were that the testing of the concrete that was laid for, stage 1 didn't meet the required tests, and the contractor agreed that it needed to be replaced in parts, and they have agreed to do that and fund it. So it's at no cost to council, and that's the process we've agreed with them. So I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry. All that work's supposed to have been completed by now, like a month ago, but we just got a new start work notice yesterday with more work happening in Sheldon Street. So I'm trying to understand what's going on with that program. There's no reference to it here.
Well,
but it does seem particularly concerning.
This is only an update on the major cycleways that I haven't looked to update you on the concrete issue because there's been pretty extensive back to and fro-ing on that. But if they are doing something which was outside the original time frame, I can only presume that the contractor had some issues in terms of replacement of the defective concrete, and they're now seeking to rectify it. But
Yeah, I'm going to jump in because this is one of the reasons why it's good for actually staff to get a bit of an idea of what the questions are going to be asked in the meeting, so therefore they can actually have good answers for you in the public environment. So, if we get some of these done in questions in advance, then hopefully we can get them answered to a more
These were
satisfactory
put into the
level.
office of the CE in late January, around whether that program was on track.
I understand. The meeting obviously was today, and there was time to feed it in to make sure that they would be knowing.
Well, I just got the start work notice last night, so sorry. Yep,
no,
point taken.
Anne?
Safety and school safety journeys to school. I see that Redwood School has been working with council. If there were other schools that would be keen to well, I'm actually thinking of the student council out at Huratini at Horswell, who are pretty keen on getting their journeys to school as a ward sort of looked at. Who would be the best person to kind of invite along to have a chat to them about how to go about that?
it'd be Thomas McNaughton's team or someone from his team. So if you want to feed something through the OCE, and we'll address it.
Thank you very much. And also just thinking about the fact that obviously there's not the resource to meet the need for the cycle safety program. Would it be possible for, if community boards were to find some funding for the local area, could that work? If we were to fund a program for schools that perhaps have missed out?
Look, I'm not familiar with the community board funding obligations or requirements, but it sounds like something that could be done.
I'm wondering who would be a good person to talk to with that about that.
I think if you put it through the same
Channel?
and we'll deal with it.
Great. Thank you very much, Richard.
I wish our board had funding to do that. Phil?
I'm not sure if ours does either, but it's worth a go.
Richard, thank you very much. With the likes of the smoothing of New Brighton Road, which was very good, and from Bassett Street to Anzac Drive, which they did in probably, I think they did it over 2 nights, might have been 3 nights, and it's good because it's waterproof, it's lost its shape, and I can follow all that. Why did we not use that system in Avonhead Road, which seemed to take about a month to dig out a few soft spots. It seemed to take forever, and not being rude, I think the finished article is not a hell of a lot better than what was there to start with, but if we use the smoothing situation, do you need direction from us to suggest to you, please do it that way, rather than...
Well, maybe from you, councillor. Mark, do you want to... That sounds like a question for maintenance.
So yeah, when we look at maintaining a street, obviously we decide it's the right time and it's the right extent, but more importantly we also decide what the right treatment is. We are looking to how we can definitely improve that to make it more robust, which includes more testing. But fundamentally, I guess we do need to make sure that what we're putting down is on a solid foundation. And in New Brighton, we felt that we did have that, so we could just basically put something on top.
It's got about as much asphalt,
whereas Avonhead Road wasn't quite the same situation. We did need to do some repairs, and indeed those repairs haven't been done to the level that we're content with, and there is rework that will be undertaken on that same street.
What I'm, and Richard knows what I'm talking about, I can't talk about here, I'm mad keen on smoothing, asphalt smoothing, rather than chip sealing. I know it costs a little bit more. It's not the same as milling it out 50 mil thick, because that costs a fortune. But I think if you need some direction from us, if you want it, the question is, can we help you by saying we would prefer smoothing rather than chip sealing?
Not from individual councillors, though.
No, from this committee.
So
I did say question.
We're looking at the level of service that's applicable for Hierarchy Road, for the new activity management plan, which would be how we'd look to address for a type of road where we try to obtain a certain degree of smoothness or not.
So I think it's probably an LTP level service discussion.
Excellent.
But just following on from that though, if there ended up being a direction saying we want a bit more smoothing, but with the current budget that would mean actually less roading gets resealed. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we've managed to get 93k in this year.
We will be aiming for that.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's about 70k chip seal and about 20k of AC, or a little bit more. The smoothing costs around about twice the price of 2.5 times the price of chip seal.
Right.
So that obviously needs to be factored in, and indeed what we're also looking at consideration of in the whole service provision of a renewal is the extent of the pre-seal works that we do, so that we at the moment are by necessity having to focus on just maintaining the asset, maintaining the waterproofing. Absolutely, we want to look at how we can extend the pre-works to get it up to the level where we're actually avoiding all the bumps and hollows and all that kind of stuff.
I just think it would be really good to have that on the website underneath, when you've got the little bits of explanation underneath the road resurfacing map, just to manage expectations, because I think the expectations from people are that when a road's being resealed, it's being smoothed. And I think that currently we need to be really clear on with people actually what they can expect from the current program. Yeah.
Pauline.
Thank you. Just on the Rapanui Shag Rock, section 3, page 18. So I'm pleased to see that these reports are coming in. It sounds like they're in and they're just being processed. But does the ecological report have to be peer reviewed, and does the Ihitai Trust want to peer review it? Because just for the other members who might not have been on the council, when the ITI committee approved the route to go around the estuary on the road, rather than the other option, which was to go through Charlesworth Reserve, both of those routes have got disadvantages, ecological disadvantages. But when we approved the road route to be the one, the Ihitai Trust kicked up a big storm about it and have, pretty much said it's a no-go because of the wildlife there, particularly the birds feeding in the estuary. So are they going to want to peer review this report as well, and will that delay things again, or what's the story?
Look, I don't know about peer reviewing it, but it talks about finalising the ecological report, updating the multi-criteria analysis, and then we update key stakeholders, and they would be one of them, on where we got to, and then we report back to this committee. So we'd certainly be engaging with them before we report it back to you, so we can tell you about what they have to say.
That's good, because we've had a couple of meetings with them. I think Mike and were you Sarah there? Yeah, and we've got to keep that relationship going. And if for any reason that we decided that that was not the best option, then that decision would have to be rescinded, wouldn't it, through this committee?
I'd have to check the decision, but if it was a specific one for that route, then yes, we'd look to do a rescind report.
Okay, thank you. So it's coming in April. Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to add a second resolution there, and that's just to request officers work with councillors who would like to be part of the submission making for the accessible streets, Davidson, Cotter and Templeton, on the development of the submission for accessible streets, and Galloway.
It's due on the 22nd of April, and it's going to 3 Waters on the 22nd of April.
Okay. Yeah, noting that it is going to the
3 Waters Infrastructure and Environment Committee.
3 Waters Infrastructure and Environment Committee on the 22nd of April.
'22nd.
Streets. Is it? And Daniels. Yes. Yes, around the estuary edge. Yeah.
And it's got an option to go through Council's Reserve, or?
The decision was made to do it along the estuary edge, but there's obviously been some concern raised because of that, and so we're just looking at the ecological impact of actually going through the reserve.
Did I hear the other day, or misunderstand maybe, that there was some talk about shutting Humphreys Drive off and just being into the estuary?
Probably not. Did I hear about someone wanting to go into the estuary 4 metres, Phil?
Yeah. I think we should go into the estuary 4
Yes, and there's a slight concern with that.
But we can shoot
Yeah. So, sometimes environmental impacts don't matter to some people.
Request that we put a resolution to get a report back from staff around a lower level of LED around sites of ecological significance, like Dunedin.
We don't want to bring a report back because of the cost involved. It's been noted down, and we'll get some information back that we can follow up.
But with respect, that's one of the problems, is that we never get to make decisions, so we get the community come and raise stuff.
I tell you what, Yana, you can move it as an amendment and get a seconder and put a vote on it if you like. But we've noted it down, and there'll be information coming back.
Okay, and then
if we're really concerned about actually ratepayers' dollars, we need to work out what is the best way to get information back, and we know the cost of doing a report is quite extensive. So you're welcome to put it up as an amendment.
Yeah.
I've given you a signal that information will come back regarding your concern, because some of us do share the same concern, but it's actually making sure we can do it efficiently too.
Okay, so maybe we could have a briefing, get the information back to a briefing, and then we could decide, whether we wanted, that would bring a report back. Is that? I just want to get to a point where we can actually consider it. So whatever's the easiest way of doing that. But what I've heard from staff today is there's a real urgency because we've pre-ordered a lot of the lights, and B, there's a process to go through with NZTA in terms of funding. So.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but it's been efficient with our time and staff's timing, trying to get the right result.
So so you'd recommend getting a note to get information back?
I'll have an offline conversation with staff after this to work out the best way to actually move this along.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay. We have something to move. Sarah, any discussion? All those in favour?
All right.
All opposed? Carried. And we'll finish with the paragraph on.
Oh, goodness. Come on. Kia tau tō rangamari, kia runga I ngā iwi o te ao. Let your peace reign on all the people of the world.